I'm Troy Thompson. Over the last 15 years, our family has worked hard to create a place we call the center of the universe. A place where our kids and someday our grandkids can come home to and laugh, have fun, learn how to work, pray, worship God, and be a place to celebrate life with all our friends. After a quarter century in uniform, I put away one set of boots for another, working on our acreage, improving the land, fixing some structures, and building new ones. We say, give back to the community, be useful, keep your hands calloused, and spread the gospel. This is a little place in a little state right in the middle of flyover country, from which cries out a voice in the wilderness to all who might want to listen, learn, and laugh along with us. This is our American dream. Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to Sunnyside. Happy 4th of July, Independence Day in America. I love the 4th of July. Do you love the 4th of July? Well, even if you don't love the 4th of July, do you love Independence Day? I do. I think it's just a great celebration of a whole bunch of people that decided they'd had enough, and they decided that they were going to start their own country. You know, on the other podcast that I do with co-host Andy Buffington, the Waldorf Gridiron Club, we talk how easy it is to start a college, or used to be, to start a college in America. Back in the day, in the 1800s, it'd be like town elders would get together and say, you know what we need? We need a college here in this town. And then 3 days later, there was a college. And that's not quite how it happened with the United States of America. Obviously, it was a kind of a slow process. But we celebrate our separation. We celebrate our independence from Great Britain, the United Kingdom, England, blah, blah, blah-de-de-blah, this week. And it's just great. It's a Thursday. It's a Thursday, 4th of July, which means it's either a really weird work week or it's a very short work week. And I hope it's a short work week for you, but you should still be busy and useful, celebrating our independence. I'm not a big fan of wearing the United States flag as apparel. I served under that flag for a little over a quarter century. I just don't feel that it's suitable swimwear or suitable pants. I don't think you should be sitting on it, but that's just me. You can do, I guess, whatever you want, and hey, you're welcome. We fought for that right, for you to be able to do with that flag whatever it is. But I don't know, I love the patriotism that we celebrate on the 4th of July, on Independence Day, as we celebrate the Declaration of Independence from the King of England, old George III, back in the day. A little bit of a lunatic, maybe syphilitic or whatever his situation was, but he had a lot of kids. So good job, George. Anyway, this week is fun for the family. I think it is one of our family's favorite holidays. We love Thanksgiving. I think that's our favorite. 4th of July is a close second, and then probably Christmas, and then on down the line. That's just how we are. We think Christmas is pretty commercial. We celebrate it for what it is, the birth of Jesus Christ, and all that light coming into the world. But of course, we do give each other gifts, and we have all of the traditional secular fun with Christmas, whatever that happens to be. But Thanksgiving, obviously, is our favorite holiday. We've talked about that on this program before. 4th of July, the Independence Day celebration, we do love it. So around here, we've got parades, and you probably do too, wherever you happen to be. Great big one over in Clear Lake, Iowa, and my wife loves a parade like a Broadway show tune. She loves a parade, and I remember one time, I guess it would have been back in, was it 2008 maybe? Could it have been that long ago? Or maybe it was 2000. I don't know when it was. But anyway, Hillary Clinton was there. So that was exciting for people that like Hillary Clinton. I wasn't that enthused, but it was kind of fun to see folks come to little town Iowa. That's a great thing about the great state of Iowa, is that politicians, you have to come here. You got to come here. And so she did, and so did somebody else, too. I've seen George W. Bush over there in Clear Lake, and back when he was running for president, I didn't think he was going to make it, to be honest with you. Yeah, well, what do I know? So who knows? And on and on and on and on. I don't think Donald J. Trump will be in Clear Lake this Thursday. I doubt it, and I don't especially anticipate that Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., or the third, or whatever he is, and I don't even think he knows anymore, but I don't expect to see him in Clear Lake. Why would he come to Iowa? Iowa did exactly what he wanted to. The Democrats barely had a caucus, for anybody else but Joe. So it's speaking of those two guys, though, it'd be crazy not to mention, since we're rolling in Independence Day, and I know I'm late to the game, but I'm only doing this once a week. I'm like a local newspaper, except they don't really give you the news, but I do only come out once a week, and I'm usually behind the times. And this is no exception to that. There was a debate on Thursday night. I don't know if you happened to catch it or not. I don't know if you can call it a debate or not. President Joe Biden and former president, I think they still just call him president, Donald J. Trump, squared off in Atlanta, Georgia, on the CNN campus. And if you weren't certain that it was the CNN campus, then I guess you just weren't paying attention, because they had CNN just plastered all over everything. And by all rights, that was their debate. And it was historic in the sense that you have two presidents that are each have had a term, that are arguing who should be the best person to serve as the next president of the United States. And by all accounts, Joe Biden gave a terrible performance. And that is my account as well. I have nothing new to add to that. He was exactly like we've all, at least on one side of the issue, have said that he's been probably since, 2020. And that's sad to see. I wouldn't give him a sympathy vote. He is a very obstinate, proud, and, not a great guy, in my opinion. But that's the image that he's supposed to have, that he is a great guy. And I think what we saw is an old man who is losing control of his faculties and wasn't ever that bright in the first place, to be honest with you. He was always taking credit for things that weren't his. He was always jumping in front of a parade and taking credit for things and plagiarizing and saying that he was the top of his class in law school, and lies that back in the day you could get away with when America was great, when America truly was great. And you couldn't look things up immediately on your phone, and I could just tell you things about corn pop and what my dad said about homosexual marriages and love, all of which is untrue. But he's a fibber, he's a storyteller, and he says it and does it in a way that makes you think, well, he's not telling the truth, but he sounds like a nice old man. So everybody has always known that he was lying, except for the die-hard folks who are on that side of the aisle. And then on the other side of the aisle, it's too bad there's only two sides. As I've said, I wish there were 32 sides, 32 different aisles. That'd be great. 31 aisles would give us 32 different perspectives. There was Donald J. Trump, and he performed okay. He wasn't as bombastic as some people thought that he would be. He didn't do a terrible job addressing the issues and turning some obviously anticipated questions away from him regarding January 6th, and talking about the border issue and the border crisis and some of that. What annoyed me about the whole situation is he wouldn't answer a dang question. He would start answering a question by saying, let me just go back and talk about something you said 7 months ago or 7 minutes ago, or just this last time that I've answered. I'm not a good Trump impersonator. The world's full of Trump impersonators. I'm not one of them. And I just want him to answer the question. Like, can these politicians just get over themselves for a moment to just answer the questions? I got to give credit. I'm not a fan of CNN, but I thought that they did a good job. The moderators asked decent questions. They stayed on point. They didn't act rabid, in my opinion, in any way. And overall, they did a good job. I don't have a problem with what I thought. That was the winner of that debate was probably CNN, looking like it was a news organization that wanted to just host an historic presidential debate. And so what I would have liked to see from Trump is actual answers that were related to the questions. And he did go back. He'd go back and he would talk about things, and then they would remind him, you have 38 seconds left, and if you'd like to answer this was the question. And then sometimes he would actually do that. But he ended up just at the end of the debate, just basically, continuing to say, he's just a bad guy, whatever. And he missed some opportunities. I've heard Ben Shapiro say that what he should do and what he should have done, and I agree in this particular case, is when Biden brought up the 34 felony indictments, which is a joke. It's a joke. New York, you suck at law enforcement, obviously. No offense to my friend Rick, who we've had on the show, who was a NYPD guy, but when it comes to the justice system in New York City, particularly Manhattan, you suck at it. You're not good. Haven't been good probably since Giuliani was a prosecutor there. And that's sad. And we all know that it was just that type of, pursuing your political opponent that the Democrats are seeming to be pretty good at. And he was good at saying you couldn't win in a fair fight, and he hit him pretty hard on that stuff. But he missed the opportunity to say, at least I was found competent to stand trial. Like, you would be a felon too, Joe, if your own attorney general and your own Department of Justice hadn't determined that you're incompetent to stand trial. So... And now, on this episode of Finley Explains to Adults, Article 5 of the United States Constitution.
We, the people, can change our Constitution. There are two ways to do it. First, Congress can introduce any amendment they want to add to the Constitution, but they have to get a 2/3 majority to approve it in the House and in the Senate. So that means 66 senators and 288 representatives have to agree. If they do, then each state gets to debate the amendment. Then they have to vote on it. It takes 38 states to vote yes for an amendment to be added to the Constitution.
But what if Congress doesn't want to make any more amendments to the Constitution?
Well, the other way to amend the Constitution is to get 2/3 of the states to call for a convention, so they can talk about things they want to change by amending the Constitution. If there are any amendments that come out convention, then they go back to each state, just like before, and if 38 states vote yes for the amendment, it gets added to our Constitution.
Why wouldn't the people in Congress just do it like they've done for the last 27 amendments?
Well, sometimes people don't want to change the rules, especially if the rules give them an advantage, like my basketball team. Everybody knows the rules, but what if the rules made it so that one team had a big advantage over everybody else, and they didn't want to change that? If we don't like the rules, we would have a meeting and talk about what we wanted to change. We probably wouldn't agree on everything, but the things we did agree on, we could make it a new, better rules for our league.
Thanks, Finley. Next time on Finley Explains to Adults.
The minimum wage does exist. It's called $0.
Here we go, America. Celebrating Independence Day from tyrants, the tyrants of a kingdom, of a colonial empire. Having a king is something that, we haven't had that since the end of the Revolutionary War. One would say since July 4th, 1776. The King of England would probably have disagreed about that. Well, the current King of England might disagree with when we stopped having a king in this country. But we don't have a king. We don't have princes, except for the one that was in Minneapolis. We don't have queens. Well, we do, but that's a whole another topic for a different day. We don't have regal folks. We just don't recognize royalty or nobility in this country. Just not that interested. And I think that, I think they found that out. when Prince Harry and Meghan Markle rolled on over here and really thought they'd make an impact, and nobody cares because in this country, we still like to think that you earn your way to the top, which is kind of why I thought that, Donald Trump would perform a little bit better. He has been identifying with a whole lot of new people, people that the Democrats thought they had pigeonholed for them. And they don't, apparently. So there are some shifting sands in the demographics of America, and we'll see how that turns out this fall. But I just, I wanted, I guess, to remind everybody that Joe Biden did such a poor job. That's not the part I want to remind you of. We all know that. Even the Democrat pundits know that he did a terrible job. It's like they're surprised. I can't believe it. Can you believe it? We all believe it. And that wasn't helpful. But then Joe being Joe, he's like, I'm not stepping down. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna do push-ups. Hey fat. Give me a break. Never been tough, but in my opinion, and probably never been challenged to be tough, to be honest with you. I mean, a lot of these folks that talk tough in Washington, D.C. and in Hollywood and just in general, I've never been punched in the mouth. And I'm not saying that that's what, should happen at this point because he's already bewildered. But I just doubt that he's ever had his butt kicked because doesn't seem like that kind of a guy. I don't know if Trump has either. He seems a little scrappier, but I don't know if he's ever been in a real fight, to be honest with you. However, if they do replace Joe Biden, because that's the scuttlebutt, they'll say, well, we got to get a different person. We got to bring in a relief pitcher. We need a relief pitcher because this guy's gotten us this far. He beat Trump in 2020, and now it's time for a relief pitcher. But we can't have Vice President Harris because she's horrible. And so we're going to have to come up with somebody new and exciting, enthusiastic, somebody that we can really tie our wagon to. Well, they gave up the opportunity to do that with RFK Jr. because he had the audacity and still has the audacity to run against Joe Biden. He's a Democrat. His whole family's Democrats. And there's a new book out that talks all about how terrible the Kennedys actually were, particularly with how they treated women and sometimes helped them find their way to the afterlife, and including RFK Jr. Check it out. I'm not going to tell you what the title of the book is. Well, mostly because I can't remember. It's not that important to me. But I did get a review on it, and I thought it was interesting. Maybe the Kennedys were never that great. Maybe they were always Irish trash, and we just didn't want to think of them like that. Maybe Camelot was all just a big farce, and it was a marketing scheme. And I think that there's some truth to that as well. But keep this in mind, and this is what I want to remind you of. If you watch baseball at all, you might notice that whomever the relief pitcher may be for Joe Biden, relief pitchers win games. They can turn things around in the same inning. So while all the MAGA folks are out there having a great time celebrating themselves as if they had something to do with this clear deterioration of a human being on stage, and in the last few years under the name Joe Biden, they may want to check their rearview mirror a little bit and see if there's anybody coming in from the bullpen. Because who comes in from the bullpen? And I have no idea who it will be, if it even can be anybody. But just, I guess, mind your cheerfulness a little bit. It's fun to see Joe lose if you're on Trump's side, but Trump's supporters have notoriously developed blinders for all things Trump, and that may include folks that come in from the bullpen, somebody that potentially could win. And I don't know who that would be. I don't know at all. I've heard, I guess, some people say that Michelle Obama might have to run and be the president of the United States. That would be horrible. Come on. And she would probably beat Trump. I don't even think that would even be a question. It's like, hey, look, a black woman that might be a man. Oh, she's not a man. She's just, very mannish in her appearance in some ways. But, I don't think that. There's some conspiracy people. I don't think that's true. But she's got no experience in politics, or maybe she does. Maybe she's the strong arm behind Barry Obama. I don't really know. But maybe the Obamas have been behind the entire Biden administration. They've got most of the Obama staff working in the White House and the administration right now. Anyway, it's not like the Democrat Party has invented anything new recently. So I guess we'll just find out. But just beware, because that relief pitcher, if there is one, if it's Joe Biden going to pitch the whole game, he's going to lose the game. He's going to lose the game. Because nothing that they throw at Trump works. And he's gaining traction. So he'll be the next president, in my opinion, if things are relatively fair. And we know they can't be everywhere because, temptation is what temptation is. But I think he's going to win if Joe Biden is his only opponent. If he's not, if the Democrats, shift and find somebody else, then, well, he could beat that person as well. However, he could lose to that person. Relief pitchers do win games, and that does happen. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to keep an eye on it. So as you're out there doing things this week, listening to this Independence Day episode of the Sunnyside of Life, you're keeping it sunny for you out there. Hopefully it's a sunny weekend, at least. I think there might be a little bit of rain around us on the Independence Day itself on Thursday, but maybe you're out there boating. We like to go do some boating, hanging out with friends. That we've been doing that for years now, and spending the day out on the lake and just having a good time. Kids are a lot older now. They're staying on the torpedo and the big inflatable behind the pontoon at rapid speed, a lot better than they did when they were little kids, and we could just whip them right off. But now they're staying on pretty good. The boys are, bringing their girlfriends, and that's great. But the boat's filling up. And then, of course, some of the kids, they're off doing their own thing because they've grown up and taking care of business in someplace else. So it's changed a little bit, but it's a tradition that we dearly love. And of course, we love the fireworks. We like the sound of explosives in the air, celebrating the war that it took to grant us our independence in America. And I will tell you, if I have to listen as a veteran to some whiny person who's not a veteran, but really just a dog owner who thinks that dogs are people and wears sweaters and footsie things, I just want to say, just keep in mind that the fireworks are very difficult for all of the dogs out there. Oh, and also our veterans. And yeah, that's true. For some veterans, that is scary. It brings back some memories. That's true for some veterans, but they can handle it. Your dogs might not like it. Keep them inside. And they might hear them on the inside too. They might not like that, but it's just usually for 20, 30 minutes. And maybe a little bit longer if you've got a bunch of lunatics around there. I'm just, I don't want to see your social media posts about dogs and veterans and fireworks. Give me a break. I have a dog. I am a veteran. Everything's going to be just fine. Let's celebrate the birthday of America in true American blowing things up fashion. Fortunately for Iowa, a few years ago, we got the ability to have fireworks, which had to be a real, hard thing for South Dakota and Missouri, because they would build fireworks, stands right on the Iowa border. Because Iowans, even though it was against the law to have them, they kind of went over there and did their own thing. You'd say, hey, you running down to Missouri? Yeah. Okay, I need you to stop by Eagleville and pick me up $600 worth of explosives. That buys you a lot of fireworks back in the day. Now you can spend $600 right here in Iowa, probably in your hometown. They have pop-up tents with just full of explosives, and you can set them off, and they're all made in China mostly. I'd say they probably all are made in China. Why are the Chinese people so good at making firecrackers? I don't know. I guess they've been doing it for a long time. They did invent gunpowder, allegedly, and they're really good apparently with making paper mache products. So you combine those two things, and you've got a business. Anyway, you can buy them right now in Iowa, and Iowans do love their firecrackers. And I mean like the big mortars and the explosives. And there's a little bit of a contest in the country because folks that live in the country in Iowa are even more free than people who live in towns. Of course, we've always known that to be the case. Country boys can survive. That's partly because we already know how to use explosives. So having fireworks is just second nature to us anyway. And all of these acreages out in the country have little competitions of who's going to send up the largest and loudest and longest explosions and displays, which really makes for quite an entertaining evening or evenings this time of year. But I was thinking about these English people, I don't know if they're bitter. I don't know if they're upset. I don't know if they hold a grudge. I don't really care. I thank them for the language. I think that the English language is marvelous, mostly because it's my first language and I'm biased. But I think that the English language has done some amazing things in world literature and so on and so forth. So I appreciate them for that. And I do like a lot of the English movies that come out because they seem to still be making good, original, well-acted and directed plot-heavy films in the UK. So thanks for that. They are, fairly socialist, but that's the advantage of being a European country for 50 or 60 years when America's doing all the work. And you could just spend money, making your people dependent upon you. But even though it is they have a parliament over there in the UK, they still do have a king. And I think that, there's actually several European countries that still have kings. They still have royalty. Who cares? We got away from that. And it made me think today that what would it mean, just because you get rid of royalty and as a nation, you break free. You say, we're good enough to do this on our own. Like we can do this, right? We know how to manage our own country. The colonists had been basically running their own country for almost 100 years by that point. I mean, the Pilgrims arrived in 1620 in Massachusetts, so the Massachusetts Bay Colonies shortly thereafter. The National Guard happens in 1636 along with the Pequot War, and then on and on and on. 1776 rolls around. I mean, you got like 150 years where, for the most part, the colonists have been doing their own thing. And Great Britain has been busy, playing patty cake with France and other powers in Europe, and really wasn't concerned that much with the colony. Then when all of that's over in, the 1760s, Britain's like, holy cow, we spent too much money, and now let's go ahead and get some of that money that we've invested to some degree and make those colonists around the world, by the way, but also in the United States. Let's make them pay for this. We need to refill our coffers. And that got to be pretty irritating because, one, we hadn't been doing that, and so it seemed egregious. And two, even though we'd had the benefit, I guess, of being British citizens, whatever that amounted to, they were the world's most successful navy at the time. They had a pretty powerful army, et cetera, et cetera. So being affiliated with Great Britain wasn't a bad thing, but we just had enough, and we decided that we could do it on our own. Part of the idea of freedom and independence comes from a Christian understanding, particularly a Protestant understanding of Christianity in the West. So, by 1776, we'd had all kinds of famous English writers and philosophers and talking about freedom and independence and the role of the state and the social contract and all kinds of wonderful things that made people in that day think, in this age of enlightenment, about what it is that we could do as individual citizens. And I think Protestantism had a big role in that, in so much as that they just abandoned sacerdotalism, which is an amazing $16 word that I learned a long time ago in college. And it means, you're a papist. It means that you put all of your power in a pope, and that person tells you what to do. in every which way. They set all the rules and regulations, and you by faith associate with that. And it kind of trickles on down from there. Well, if you're a Protestant, whether you broke away with Martin Luther, or you started following Calvin or Wesley, and on and on and on. That would have been a little bit later, but all of these, Protestant reformers, at some point, you're probably saying, well, we don't need the Pope. We don't need Rome. We don't need essentially the king of the earthly church, because the king of the church, the bride, the husband, is the bridegroom is Jesus Christ, regardless, right? So they were saying, yeah, we have Jesus, we don't need a pope, and we can do this on our own. And that kind of mentality, coupled with the advances in the Enlightenment and thinking about the role of the state and the responsibility of the state, whether it was Hobbes or Locke or whomever, kind of rolled into, well, are we going to have a king or not? And the Americans concluded we don't need a king, that we can have a democratic republic, not a democracy. Democrats and I guess folks who just don't know words say that we're a democracy. Well, we are a democratic republic, right? You elect your officials, you elect the representatives, and then they act on their hearts and minds, and in their districts in which that they represent, and they vote and they make those decisions. We kind of abdicate some of our responsibility by electing people that we think can handle that job. And the same thing happened, I think, in when we left the Catholic Church as Protestants. We said we can do this on our own. We don't need a pope. We got this. We got this figured out. And we don't. And then because with a pope, you have the inclinations of a pope, and because the pope is allegedly infallible, then that means that everything that they say, every dictate, is infallible, and we can't have that because we know that's not true. So Protestants said enough is enough. We can do this better with common sense, education, and good responsibility and faith. And Americans decided to do the same thing when it came to politics. Eventually, they were just like, well, we're going to go and we don't need a king. We've got, we can do this ourselves. We can have our elected leaders. We can change them regularly. People have the ability to pick and choose their leaders. People have freedom to pursue property, is what they meant. They said happiness spelled with a Y. I don't know why. And then they meant property. You have private property. It's yours. You can do with it. It's not the king's property. It's not the king's deer. It's one of the problems I've always had with the DNR, to be honest with you. I think that they're running the king's deer program. Well, the DNR doesn't have anything to do with how many deer we have or whether the deer are in the rut season or how many babies or any of that stuff. But they sell tickets so that you can decide how many you can harvest. I mean, it seems like we could be harvesting a lot more, and why do I need, somebody's permission to feed my family? That seems a little king's deer-like. Same thing with fishing, although in that case they actually do stock a lot of the lakes. But anyway, sidebar conversation for another time. So you could have your personal property, and you could do your own thing, and you could be your own boss. You could go where you wanted to go and say what you wanted to say and worship the way you wanted to worship. You didn't have to worship, as a Catholic church. You didn't have to worship as in the Anglican Church, in the Church of England, or the Episcopalian, which is what that became, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't have to do any of that stuff. You didn't have to worship anybody if you didn't want to, although they preferred that you did. And depending on which colony you were in, they might have actually had state churches. Is that even possible under the Constitution? Sure. Yeah. Well, absolutely was. Rhode Island definitely did. Maybe I have that wrong. Was it Rhode Island? It doesn't matter. Maryland, probably. They were probably super Catholic. Anyway, some of these places, Massachusetts, they were pretty puritanical at one point in their history. So yeah, they did. States had their own little churches, and people just moved in and out accordingly. And they usually weren't persecuted too much, although one of my relatives was thrown in jail back in the founding of Boston for simply agreeing that you should let other churches be in there instead of just the Congregationalists and the Puritans. Yeah. Good job. What's funny is I grew up Congregationalist, so I don't know what that means. But what do you expect? Anyway, that's part of the great deal, right? We can do this ourselves. The problem is, I'm not so sure that every Protestant denomination or the history of the Protestant church has been able to do it themselves with their own brains very well, particularly when they go away from the Bible and the founding fathers of the church. We're just inventing it all now ourselves. And that's been a problem for the last, 100 years, I suppose, in Protestant denominations, maybe longer than that. So there's no great evidence that not having a pope is particularly great, but you could have evil popes. And we certainly have a long history of Roman Catholic history where there are good popes and there are bad popes and there are some evil popes. And I think that you see the same thing in the Bible. This is not an argument for Catholicism, by the way. I'm not Catholic. I'm not turning Catholic. It's not even an argument for Orthodox, Catholic churches or whatever they call themselves. The Eastern Orthodox, the Russian Orthodox, the Greek Orthodox, the Orthodox. They've been around the whole time without really changing much, and I kind of like their vibe a little bit better. But I'm not an Orthodox, big O, Orthodox guy. There's no evidence, I guess, that that the popes were always infallible. I would say that there's actually very little evidence that the popes are ever infallible, but there certainly is evidence that there were good popes and there were bad popes. And the Bible talks about when there were, good kings and there were bad kings. In fact, in the books of 1st and 2nd Kings and Chronicles, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, they say it explicitly. So-and-so was a good king, for he followed the Lord, but he still let people worship the foreign gods and, sacrifice their babies, etc. And then there were evil kings. He was an evil king because he did all of these things. But every single one of those kings in ancient Israel were ordained. Yeah, I don't know if that's the right. What is it? When they get their little king. Anyway, when they get their crown, they all went through the same steps. They all went through the ceremony of the temple, as did Saul and David and Solomon. All of the bad kings did the same rites with the temple as the good kings. The difference was in how the good kings and the evil kings acted. And in the same way, I think that when you take our Protestant faith, you can see that there have been phenomenal Protestant faith leaders in the last 500 years. There's been great leaders like Wesley, and there have been terrible leaders, those that are bent towards apostasy. Now, the folks that are running the United Methodist Church, founded by Wesley. And so, and it's not just an attack on them, the Episcopalians, the Presbyterians, the Lutherans, the ELCA, they've all done the same thing. So the apostasies continue. It doesn't mean that you have great leaders. You can still have, they were still following through in the same program and format as the good ones. You still got the evil ones and the bad ones. And this, too, then, is what happened when we declared independence. Yes, we had the ability to separate ourselves from the King of England, and we had to do it via bloodshed. Brave men and women that would fight to make this a new nation, which is awesome. I'm so proud of what we did, and so, it's so great to be an American. It's an amazing country. I serve this country. I love this country. I really do. And I love Independence Day. But that doesn't mean that we have had great leaders throughout our history. And that doesn't mean that the people of this great nation have done their due diligence in choosing the best leaders. In fact, we've had a bifurcated two-party system for the last, 150 years. No, almost 200 years. And the problem with that, of course, is that you get distracted paying attention to where the peanut is under the cup if you happen to lean left, or where the peanut is under the cup if you're leaning right. And you're all arguing about the peanut that doesn't matter. It does not matter. And we're not doing a good job setting forth our best leaders. Because you can have a Protestant church that is great because it follows the instructions of the Bible, and you follow Christ. You are the bride of Christ in the church. You can have a democratic republic that is phenomenal. And I think for at least 100 years, we had that. Maybe even 150. We had that. Maybe a little bit longer. I'm not sure. Maybe 180. Hard to say. But somewhere along the line, it continued to get weaker and crappier with crappier leaders. And you've seen it in our churches, and you've seen it in our politics. And we saw it on Thursday. The best we can do is watching grumpy old men have an argument at the ice house, and nobody knows what the heck either one of them is talking about. Obviously, I think that Trump did a better job, and he won that debate hands down, if you can call it a debate. Joe Biden can't put two sentences together and make any sense. You cannot take credit. You cannot take credit for, if presidents, first of all, should not take credit for any jobs created unless it's a new position they created in the Oval Office. They jump in front of the parade and take credit for all of the things. When you shut down an entire nation and everybody can't go to work, then those people go back to work. Particularly after you say, listen, we're not going to pay for you to stay home anymore. This is ridiculous. You guys should have been back to work 3 months ago. And then people start going back to work. You don't take credit for that. You had nothing to do with that because they need to eat. They need to go to work. They need to be useful. And for crying out loud, you don't pay Americans to sit home on their butts. That's ridiculous. And both President Trump and Biden were all about that. So, what are we going to get? I don't know. But I could tell you this, if it was based on how I've seen history go, either in the church or separating from, look, I'm glad we separated from England. My point is this, is that just because we separate doesn't mean that we've done a great job being better at running our country necessarily. I think we did good for about 150 years, maybe 200, maybe. That's really pushing it. And I think since then, we've just gotten pretty crappy at it. And that's because most people, you and I, aren't paying attention the way we should. We just don't pay attention because on Independence Day, I'm going to consume a lot of beverages, probably going to go boating around a little bit. We're going to wear our American flag cut up into pieces and on our shorts and on our swim trunks or wherever you happen to have them. Bikinis are okay. That's fine. And then on and on and on, right? I don't know if we're necessarily, we're not doing our job. So I guess what I encourage you all to do, wherever it is that you happen to be listening to this week, this Independence Day week for America, is get out there and actually do something. Like, be a vocal critic of our politicians, not just the politicians on the other side, because they're not listening to you anyway. If you're not registered in their party, they're not listening to you. Be a vocal critic of your own party. Square them away. Make them stand up straight. For everybody, whatever party you're in, make your party stand up straight, because it's probably the same old sots that are running the party have been running the same party for the last 30, 40 years, and they have a certain way that they like to do it. You don't get a say. Well, take this Independence Day to remember what happens when you irritate enough patriots to say, nah, we can do this better on our own. And that would be something that I would encourage you to do, just like these guys did. Well, back in the day. Remember this? This is a parody from the first season of the Sunnyside of Life about what it would be like if you were at the Green Dragon Tavern that still exists in Boston, Massachusetts during the time when they were cut off and held captive by the British Army.
Barkeep, a pint of lager, if you'd be so kind.
Hello, John. Barkeep, make that 2, sir.
Ah, Mr. Revere, how are you?
Well enough. You? How's Abigail?
Well, she's well, as am I. Some of the kids have been ill of late, but they're on the mend.
Things are going around. I'm surprised to see you. What with all the clamor lately about,
Indeed. I've been lying low to some degree, but the law practice insists I carry on in some capacity.
Same here. Silver won't smith itself, although, truth be told, not much silver being smithed these days. Mostly just pig iron and horseshoes.
Are you still, in the movement?
Excuse me, lads. I'll need a bit of attention from the barkeep.
Yes.
Indeed.
Of course, sir.
No reason a fine officer of His Majesty's army shouldn't enjoy a good lager here at the regular old, no problems of any sort Green Dragon Tavern.
Righto, barkeep. I'll have what they're having. Thank you. Carry on, lads.
Oh, my God! Can you believe?
Absolutely detestable. The audacity.
Why, if I...
Excuse me again, lads. Sorry. I left my purse right here. That's it.
Oh, yes. There it is, right where you left it.
Now, you rascally colonists didn't help yourself to me coins, did you?
Oh, no, sir.
Certainly not. We would never.
Just kidding. Giving you boys a bit of grit, that's all. Carry on.
Unbelievable.
Despotic! I say, if again I were...
One more thing. I don't suppose either of you, good gents, have seen this fella Hancock about.
No, I
Not sure what you mean exactly.
don't believe so, no.
Someone from around here?
Oh, indeed. John Hancock. He's from right here in Boston. But he likes to mull about here now and again. Thought I'd have a chance to meet him. I'm kind of a fan.
A fan? Really? I didn't think you fellows thought very much of him.
Oh, yes, we're very interested in Mr. Hancock. We'd all like to meet him someday. Hopefully. The sooner the better, really.
Well, we haven't seen him around here, but I'm sure if you let the other patrons know you're trying to meet him, one of them may know his whereabouts.
Ah, fine idea, mate. I shall do that. Ahoy! Patrons of the Green Dragon, you, sir. You look like a man in the know.
Disgusting.
That was close. We mustn't let them find John.
He's one the crown desperately wishes to silence.
Let's keep it to ourselves.
Ha! Keep what to ourselves?
Hello, Sam. Paul and I were just discussing the weather.
What are you drinking there, cousin?
Oh, this, some local swill. Not very good.
He's drinking your brew, Sam. Everyone here is drinking Sam Adams Boston Lager.
Even that lobster back over there.
By Jupiter! What's the world coming to? A man can't even enjoy one of his own, carefully crafted, well-marketed, explicitly branded, patriotically romanticized, mediocre flavored lagers. I say, wait until I tell our friend John Hancock about this.
Good Lord, cousin. Can you not keep your mouth shut for just 1 minute?
What's wrong with you two?
Oh, hello. You look familiar.
I'm Samuel.
He's my cousin, sir.
He's a bit feeble-minded.
I am not.
Yes, you are, Sam.
Ixnay on the Hancock, hey?
I can't understand a word you're saying, Paul.
You see, sir, he's an idiot.
I'm sorry to hear that. My brother is also feeble-minded.
I'm not feeble-minded.
Oh, of course not. Tut. Let me just say that my brother, though he is one feeble-minded little vest button, is truly a joy to me and my family. I think he has taught me more about life than any of my proctors.
All right, then. How about I buy you, sir, another savory Boston lager?
That's not necessary, is it?
Right. With his unique circumstances, it wouldn't be right.
Oh, on the contrary, my colonial friends. I've learned that one must make the most of these opportunities to help our enfeebled brothers feel as though they were one of us.
I'm not enfeebled.
Of course not. I'll take that savory lager you offered.
Oh, for crying out loud.
We really must be going, sir.
Nonsense. We have nowhere to be. I told John Hancock we'd be right here.
Shh. Oh, come on.
Really, such nonsense. Dread not, my friends. I understand what's happening here.
You do?
Indeed. My brother, too, has often conjured magnificent stories. Why, he once informed our entire family at Sunday dinner that King George himself was meeting him later in the garden. Thanks for the lager. A bit hoppy for my taste, but you colonials have your own crosses to bear, I suppose.
Hoppy?
Yes, Sam. Hoppy to meet you too, my special friend. Remember, you two, if you do happen to see Mr. Hancock, remind him. I'd love to have a chat sometime.
That did not just happen.
But it could have.
Well, I thought that was very funny. I made it maybe a year ago. I think it's great. I had the help of Nate Forsberg and my brother-in-law, Andy Buffington. It was a good time. We're going to do some more of that stuff. Hey, listen, I'm going to keep it short this week because I've got things that I need to get done. I want to give you an update on a few things just real quickly. I think I said it last week. Yep, I did. The press boxes are done. Praise God. We are now into Proverbs this week. We will be starting the book of Proverbs on Bible in a Year, so lots of wisdom coming your way. That was my version of Sammy Davis Jr. I don't know if it was very good. Well, it probably wasn't that good at all. But we got through the book of Psalms. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but usually everything comes out at midnight. And sometimes, like on Mondays, like when this comes out, the Bible in a Year comes out like at 5 a.m. And I separate that so that there's a gap between the service that I use between the Sunnyside of Life hitting at midnight and the Bible in a Year, which runs simultaneously. So that's why that occurs. But sometimes, and most recently, it did happen where the Bible in a Year came out, say, about 10 o'clock in the morning. And the reason that happened was because I had a meeting and I was behind. So usually I'm way ahead on my Bible reading. It's recorded and uploaded and all of that stuff. But I got a little caught up on Psalms. There's something about reading the Psalms, which I really did enjoy. Honestly, I really did. But you read 5 Psalms and you got to stay in, it's not character, but you have to, there's a tone to each Psalm. And I tried to do a good job. I don't know if I did or not, but I feel like I did okay. And so it can wear you out a little bit. So if you're reading the Psalms like back to back to back and you're doing several days in a row, it got to be a little bit much. Plus I have to go back and edit them and take out certain things that I screw up and all of that stuff. Because I believe it or not, I do make mistakes. And I don't want that to be the product that I present when I'm reading the Word of God. So I try to do a good job with that. And so it just, you read it and you read a lot of them, you record it, then you go back and you edit a lot of them, and you have to upload a lot of them. And so I got a little bit behind. So I got caught up to a point where I was like doing it almost day by day for a couple of days. And then I had a meeting on a Wednesday night with the Waldorf Gridiron Club. We had to record a couple of episodes for the Waldorf Gridiron Club podcast, which, by the way, is hilarious right now. What's happening is the Waldorf University, football. Well, the entire Waldorf University has left their previous athletic conference and have now moved and will be joining and will be part of this fall the GPAC, the Great Plains Athletic Conference, and it's amazing. We're very excited. A lot of schools that are similar to Waldorf, and it's just going to be great. And they got great competition, like national champions. It's going to be awesome. So what we're doing on that podcast is each week, the head coach and my co-host Andy Buffington and I, we just sit down and we talk smack about that, each one school at a time. The school, the history of the school, the town that school is in, the famous people from that school, if there are any, and on and on and on. And that takes us, by the way, all the way through the summer. And it's been a riot. It's been a lot of fun. So we had to do a couple of those so we could stay ahead because we have, this holiday thing this week and so forth. And I thought, well, I will just go ahead and knock out these 5 Psalms. And it was Psalm 116 through 120. And it was for Thursday. And the meeting was on Wednesday. I thought I was going to knock out those 5 chapters. The podcast recording, the guys come in about 4:30. We just have a good time, and then we had a meeting with the entire Gridiron Club executive committee at 7:30, and so at 4:00 I'm like, well, this is no problem. I'm just going to go ahead and knock out these 5 chapters. And I got started a little bit, maybe 4:15. But some of these Psalm days are 6-minute episodes. So I was like, this is probably going to be pretty quick. And I pride myself on knowing a lot about the Bible. And I know that somewhere in there is the longest Psalm of all time. But I hadn't hit it yet, and I really couldn't remember which number it was. The number, by the way, is Psalm 119. So I'm recording Psalm 116, no problemo. 17, no problem. 118, this is going great. I'm going to make my deadline. The guys are going to be coming in. We're going to do this podcast, zippity-doo-dah. It's going to be great. Psalm 119 goes on for 176 verses, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I got to verse 42, and I'm like, I got to stop. People are coming. And so I had to stop, and then we did our podcast. The Gridiron Club podcast is a lot of fun. And then we did our meeting, and that's a lot of fun. And by the time that was over, I was bushed because I led that meeting and had to throw in the recording from the podcast that we did for the Gridiron, and I just didn't finish. So the next morning, I get a text from my mom because thanks, Mom. She listens to everything that I do and really enjoys the daily Bible in a Year podcast. And she's like, is there a podcast today? We got Bible in a Year? And I was like, yeah, I didn't respond because I already knew that. So I was up and at 'em early as usual and knew that I had to knock out Psalm 119 and 120 so that I could finish that. And then while I was at it, I thought, well, I'm already late. So then I went ahead and did a week. Finish the book of Psalms, I tell you. That's what I did. And it was great. I was glad to be done with the book of Psalms. It's an awesome book, and it makes me look forward to editing or producing, I guess I should say. My whole plan with this Bible in a Year business is for you, for me, for my kids. No matter what happens to me, the Bible will be in my voice for my family for as long as they can grab these recordings, right? And if you can enjoy them and listen to them on a daily basis, that's a win for everybody. And you should know the Bible from front to back. And so that's awesome. And I've just been blessed by having that opportunity. Now, the other thing I'd like to do with it is next year, I'd like to produce some of those episodes. So take the episodes that are already done and add production, maybe some background music, maybe some different voices for characters, et cetera, et cetera. So sound effects, you name it. And not get too hokey with it. That's not my point. But if I can make it more of an immersive listening experience, that would be fun to do as well. And so the Psalms made me think that wouldn't it be cool if we could get just the soundtrack or create a soundtrack for every psalm? There is a psalter, and so for a lot of churches, the old ones that are been around for 500 years, they have a psalter that goes, and so they have music that goes along with each psalm because the Psalms were and are the original songbook, the hymnal, so to speak, of the Bible. And there's a lot of different versions of the Psalter. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops. I've talked a little bit with my friend Donovan Johnson about that, world-class pianist and good friend. And so we'll see. Maybe we could actually have the background music for the Psalms next year that are actually cool versions of the Psalter relative to that particular psalm. We'll see. We shall see. But anyway, so that happened, and we are today. I finished something that this is perfect for Independence Day. This is what American men should be doing for the sons of America. I have the young man that I've known since he was a baby. graduated this year with my son Jack, and they've been friends forever. And the difference in one way is that in our family, we've got guns, we shoot guns, we know guns, and that's just kind of the way things are around here on Sunnyside. And over, his family didn't have that. They didn't grow up with guns. They don't have guns. But they're starting to think that they need some guns, and this particular young man said, "Hey, I like to learn how to shoot. I don't know how to do it. I don't know anything about guns, and I was hoping you could help me out with that." And it's just like, come on over, kid. So he set this up like 3 weeks ago, and I did the thing. This is the old first sergeant in me, the old non-commissioned officer. I'm like, here's how we're going to do this. First, I'm going to explain the safety. I'm going to explain what's, muzzle awareness. We're going to talk about what's behind the target. We're going to talk about all of these things, the parts of the weapon, what the different parts are called. We're going to talk about the shell and the way that the gun works itself, and on and on and on. And then we're going to take you out, and we got my own little range set up. And then from there, I'm going to teach you how to shoot. You're probably going to have a pistol, so we'll start with the handgun, and then for fun, I'll show you how to shoot an MP15 or whatever. And we just had a lot of fun, and it was great to see that skill start to develop, to understand an appreciation for a firearm, understanding how a firearm should be used. Just seeing a person realize that, if you don't know how to use a tool, you're not going to be much use with that tool. And so we want to make sure that if you're going to have that tool in your literal arsenal, that you know what you're doing and that you're safe with it, and that you also understand that what comes out the end of that tool will end a life. And so you have to be prepared to, one, make sure that doesn't happen when you don't want it to, and two, understand that if that's what needs to happen, that is going to be the result. So you better darn well be prepared for that as well. And so it was a great couple of hours. He's by no means an expert or a crack shot yet, although he markedly improved, and he's enthusiastic about being responsible and just doing the right thing. And so I really appreciated it, really enjoyed it. And that is America right there. That is America. Teaching the son of your friends how to handle, maintain, and shoot a firearm. God bless America. And so that's been a great day. It's been a great day for me, and I am just wrapping up some other projects for the Sunnyside biographies, and it's been that's been a great fun thing as well. More to come on that perhaps in the future about what you can do with Sunnyside biographies and all of that stuff. But it's been that'll be a fun project to deliver. It's a little bit behind, or maybe a lot behind schedule, and so I'm not proud of my delay, but they're pretty understanding, and I think that the product is pretty darn good. So excited to deliver that to that family this week as well. Hey folks, this is Troy Thompson, and I just wanted to break in here to introduce something new to the listeners of this podcast. Now, as you know, we are not monetized. However, you can buy us a coffee. There'll be a little emblem that says you can support the show on whichever platform it is that you are listening to the Sunnyside of Life. And I would be darn honored if you bought me a coffee, so to speak. Or I think the emblem, I changed it to a beer, which seems, to be honest, probably more appropriate. So buy me a coffee, buy me a beer, whatever it is, and that helps support the show so we can continue to develop more and more great skits and have more and more great conversations just like this. And if you do, great. If you don't, that's just fine too. Just wanted to let you know, hey, that's a new option. Now back to the show. Folks, listen. Just get out there, celebrate America, and celebrating America every day amounts to this. Being a responsible citizen, paying attention to what's going on, not getting wrapped around the axles by everything that comes across the lips of a news anchor, because they are working for somebody too and promoting an agenda, whatever it happens to be. Think for yourself like our founders did. Take all of the enlightenment that you can get, and at the same time, don't forget your faith, because nothing is brighter and better than when it is held up to the bright beacon of the light of the Word of God. And no matter what happens, you can test anything against that. What comes at us in politics, the clown show that is in Washington, D.C., or some of our state houses, whatever it happens to be. If you want to celebrate Independence Day in America, declare independence from the exhaustive, ridiculous nature of our current political situation, of our current political parties. Hold them accountable, make them stand up straight. You can do this. We can run this country correctly together. We do it with our minds and our hearts and an eye towards God. I think that we're going to have great things before us, and that is not what we have going on right now. So wave those colors, red, white, and blue. But just remember, what really matters is the blood that was shed to give us those rights. That includes our freedom to speak things like this, the freedom to practice our own religion, and on and on and on. But the most important blood that was shed for all of us was that of Jesus Christ.
Hello, friends and neighbors. This is Troy Thompson of the Sunnyside of Life. Let's spend this year together reading the Word of God. Just take 10 to 15 minutes a day to join with me in the Sunnyside of Life's Bible in a Year experience. It may be just what you need. Lord knows I do. Besides, it's free, it's fast, and it's good for your soul. And you can start anytime. It doesn't take much to get caught up and on pace with us each day. So, whether you've read the Bible entirely already or you're just looking for a way to get it done, take a few moments with me here and let the good book be the sunny side of your life each and every day. And so I hope that you have an absolutely amazing Independence Day week and weekend. I hope you don't blow any thumbs, fingers, or other appendages off of your body with those wonderful explosives that you can have to celebrate our independence. And all things that you do, be safe, but have fun. Remember, a lot of us grew up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and things were just a little bit tougher back then. So let's have some fun this week, and don't forget to be the sunny side of somebody else's life.
I want to thank all our friends and guests for stopping by for this episode of the Sunny Side of Life. All the Sunny Side of Life players who stopped by, creative support provided every day by my incredible wife Heidi and our fantastic 4 boys. Thanks to every one of our listeners. That means you. A big shout out to my brothers and sisters in uniform holding the line around the world. Share the word, folks. Let the people know what we're up to. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and follow us on social media. All skits are written or adapted and directed by me, Troy Thompson, and are produced here at Sunnyside Farm Studios and delivered to all platforms by Buzzsprout. Music and sound effects are provided by Soundstripe. The Sunny Side of Life is a weekly production about our life on the family farmstead here in Iowa, the liberties we prize, and the pursuits which make us happy. Now, none of this is possible without Christ in our lives. For the Lord God is our sun and our shield. He gives us grace and glory. So may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may the sunny side of your life, liberty and pursuits, be in Christ, and made evident unto you each and every day, and give you peace.